the Board Game Librarian, and today we're going to watch a book fall, and today we're also going to talk about Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. So we're in our walking book club with my coworkers at our library where you read a book and we go on a walk and make stops and talk about a book, and this was our October pick. I picked it for Hispanic Heritage Month, and I think it was a great pick. I'm going to say right out that I gave this book 4 stars, but there's been a lot of comments and concern online with this book in particular with regards to pacing, where a lot of the major reviewers have talked about 2/3 of the book, it being very slow, and then the last third kind of being also the last third, it being a bit on the gory side. So if you don't think any of those things are for you, you can maybe skip this book. But if you are a fan of Gothic horror, Gothic books, fantastical, paranormal, unexplained things, then you very well may enjoy this book. So Mexican Gothic is set in 1950 Mexico, and starts off in Mexico City, and we set the stage with Noemi and a party that she is at. She's a socialite, she loves fancy parties, dressing very well, attractive men. She's a well-educated young woman of her time, which is somewhat problematic, just because it's 1950 and it's a somewhat more traditional culture in many ways. And her father summons Noemi home, and she has to listen to her father tell her that she's going to go to a very small village in the Hidalgo area, and that she has to find out what's going on with her cousin. Her cousin Catalina has sent some letters which are really quite disturbing and quite upsetting, and we've got to know what's going on with her, because we don't know. She's making it sound like her husband is not attacking her, but there's some possible abuse going on. That she's saying some really wild and wacky things too, with regards to the house seeming like it's alive, the walls are talking, there's ghosts. So in the first, 20 pages, we have the stage set for a spooky book. A spooky book perfect for this time of year. So Noemi travels to this remote area of Mexico in the mountains, and she is met and taken up to the house by one of the family members where Catalina lives with her husband, Francis, with her husband, and the one who drives her is Francis. And the house, immediately you can tell it's decrepit, it's old, it hasn't been very well taken care of, it's got a, it just seen better days kind of thing. And the family almost kind of reminds you of, I hate to say the Addams family, but there's clearly something weird about them. She's not able to see Catalina right away. She can't talk at dinner. There's no talking at dinner. You can't smoke in the house. All these rules. Very, 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 very lots of rules. Now, it's important to say that Noemi is of Mexican heritage, and Catalina has married into an English family, and that's where she has gone in this particular area of Mexico. And this is based on a real place that Silvia Moreno-Garcia had visited, and it's really there, called Real del Monte, or Mineral del Monte, where for many, 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 many years, because of colonization, the Spanish had initially come over and mined the area for its rich deposits of silver. Eventually the English end up coming over, being the English, and taking over the area. It's also known as Little Cornwall, this real place, and in the book as well. And you can tell by the architecture how the streets are, and even the very real English cemetery. There's an English cemetery in here as well. But the house and the family have seen better days. The mines haven't been working in a very long time. The revolution in Mexico had happened. The workers had striked, and things aren't what they were. right away we meet the patriarch of the family, Howard, and he says there's leering going on. He says very inappropriate things, kind of about how she's of a lesser genetic framing. There's some eugenics, lots and lots of eugenics going on here. So there's the creep factor in just that, kind of how he's looking at her, and just, the no talking, and just, weird. So when she finally gets to see Catalina's not responsive in many ways. She's not acting herself, this very vibrant person that Noemi remembers. And she asks Noemi to go to town and pick up a tonic, which Noemi does eventually end up going down to the village, to the town, and procuring it from kind of a medicine woman of sorts. She meets the town's doctor, and they get along quite well. But increasingly things are getting weirder and weirder and weirder, and Noemi's freedom is getting more and more restricted. She's also starting to sleepwalk at night, which she hasn't experienced since she was a child. And she's having these very graphic dreams when she's sleepwalking. And some of them are of a graphic sexual nature, but some of them are just graphic and weird. Like a woman who is screaming, the mushrooms in the house, the walls talking. So is there something to what Catalina is talking about? And it becomes more and more problematic. So, she takes a liking to Francis, who is very unlike a lot of the men that Noemi is really attracted to. She likes vibrant, flirtatious, very attractive young men, and Francis is none of those things. He's quiet, he's dour looking, but he takes a liking to her and ends up helping her out quite a lot. The book progresses to a fashion, and I really don't want to spoil a lot of this book because it is quite clever what Moreno-Garcia ends up using as like the why to explain all of what is going on. But we have a very strong female character here in Noemi who stands up for herself. She is an individual, and she's not afraid to talk back to what could be considered the authority in this book. She knows her mind. She knows what she wants. She's only 21. She wants to go get a master's in anthropology. So very forward-thinking. She's, a forward-thinking young woman. And these are kind of the establishment of sorts. And this establishment historically had relied on the forced labor and slavery of the townsfolk. They had mined the area to depletion. They had been used to forcing down the indigenous folk here. They're just for years and years and years. During the strike, when people die, they end up putting them basically in a mass grave. Great. Yay, English. Yay, English. So she starts off very shallow and very spoiled of sorts, where she only cares about, again, her dresses, and she's kind of really put off by having to go and save her cousin there. But by the end of the book, she really comes to find herself and know herself, stand up for herself, and stand up for others too. Initially, early on, she talks about leaving, and by the end, she wants to leave, but she wants to take people with her, which is very different from how the book starts. I think this is a supremely thematic book in terms of how it's going to give you the spooks and the chills. There is some gore, and harder things to read. It's definitely got the creep factor going on, not only with creepy Howard there, Uncle Howard, but it also has, the actual, give you the, this is super creepy kind of vibe. I love, too, that Moreno-Garcia was very, I don't know if she had chosen the title or if her publisher had chosen the title, but this particular book would now be considered a domestic thriller, or even throw it under Gothic thriller, Where we all know all these books, the girl on the train, the woman in the window, the girl, the woman, the blah, blah, blah. Where they take the power away from the main character, the woman. But instead we have we're setting the stage right away with Mexican Gothic. Moreno-Garcia also does a very good job in terms of showing us what the options were for young women of this time. And not a super lot. And not super different from other areas of the world either. Where, even if you went to school like Noemi does, your job is to get married and have children. And Noemi's really kind of fighting against that establishment there. Catalina has gotten married, but we can see what a trap it is for her in that particular way. And how marriage for many young women can end up being that when they end up in a situation like Catalina does, where there's abuse of some sort going on. And really, there is in this book. So, a lot going on in this book. Masterful and gloriously moody adventure, spooky, smart, and wry. There's a little bit of a mystery element going on as well, where we're trying to figure out, what is this house really haunted? Is it, what is it? But I'd recommend this book. Even just for the cover, even just you can hear about Noemi's fabulous fashion. I loved it. I want those dresses. So that is all for this week, friends. Thanks.